just got very quiet in my ears. So I think that has been effective. Great to see all of you. And of course, I am going to place the invitation out into the open that if you want to contribute to the conversation with a question or feedback, or you want to engage with us in any way, that chat function is the best way to do so. We'll be answering all of your questions and making sure that we cover any key points that you want us to elaborate on as we get going through our presentation today. So please use that chat function. And just a reminder that does get posted to everyone unless you are very specific in identifying who you want to send the direct message to. So that is visible to everyone, just as a quick note. So it's our goal each week to provide you all with some, some little bits and bites, get the golf juices flowing, and hopefully give you some things that you can work on while we're not at the course that can help you improve once we do get rocking and rolling back at the golf club. So Adrienne's going to take you through some, it's not, you've heard of the expression wheels up. She's going to tell you why heels up is an important element that you can add to your golf practice repertoire. Daniel's going to take you through a little takeaway drill. We know right now that's all we can do is take away our food. More puns coming your way. Mich is going to dazzle us with some short game strategy. So he's going to get our brains blown with all the different ways that we can approach short game and reduce the number of shots we take on the golf course. And Aidan has a very exciting little expose, a little introduction to the Toronto Terror. So if you don't know who that is, you're going to find out, and Aidan's going to tell you a little bit more about the Toronto Terror and how you actually know them probably a little bit better than you think you do. So that is going to be the group that we've got, the lineup that we've got coming at you today. We're going to kick things off, I think, with Daniel. We kind of meet as a group before this session to go over everything, and I'm really excited to see Daniel's presentation, as I am excited to see all of the team's presentations, but we're going to kick things off with Daniel. So Daniel, it's all yours, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. And thank you, everyone, for joining us again. It's so beautiful outside, but we appreciate your time today. Because it's so beautiful outside, I spent the morning outside and I got out and I hit some balls. This is kind of my presentation. I pre-recorded it. I would have loved to have you outside live with me, but some technology stuff prevents from that happening. So I'm just going to walk you through today a few different things about our takeaway in golf and how can our takeaway be better, right? So there's two very key components to hitting a straight ball. The first one is going to be our club path, and the second one is going to be our club face and our face angle. So today I really wanted to talk to you about our face angle and how we are going to improve our face angle as we're playing golf. So first of all, there's three different face angles that we can look at. So there's the first one there, as you saw where I drew the line. That's a square face angle. Something like that would be open, and that would be closed. Okay, so these are the three things that we're going to look at. And what we want to do when we hit the golf ball is we always want to try to hit that golf ball with a square face angle. And I'm going to walk you through today how we can identify where our face angle currently sits and how we can also make improvements and drills that we can do to make ourselves better in this area of our golf game, hopefully reducing some errors and improving some scores. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're always going to look at that leading edge. That leading edge is going to be the key component to helping guide us to where we want to be with our face angle. Now I'm going to get set up over the golf ball here. Once we're getting set up, we need to establish a very strong posture. As you can see there, my spine is straight. I've pushed my butt out a little bit. My chest has fallen forward, and I'm ready in position here to hit a golf shot. We always need this for any drills that we're going to be working on, any golf shot that we're hitting. This is going to create the best setup for us to make sure that we can hit the ball in the best way possible. Okay. So when we start to take away the golf club, there's a point that we get to where our club is completely parallel to the ground. This is the moment that we're going to focus on today. We're going to stop right here in our golf swing, and we're going to analyze what is happening when that club is parallel to the ground. Our goal when we're at that moment is to have our leading edge matching with our spine angle. As you can see there, I've drew the lines, but you can see the leading edge did match my spine angle when I froze in that position. Again, from the front angle, that's what it would look like. This start of our takeaway is indicating to us that we are already in a correct position to be coming back down and into the golf ball. If we're making errors this early in our golf swing, it's likely that we're going to make a continuous error and not be able to hit the golf ball with the correct face angle that we're looking for. So now we're looking at something else. I'm showing you here the errors of a golf swing. Sometimes a little bit more frequent than we would like. And sometimes as I'm doing these videos, they're not as accidental, or they are accidental and not as on purpose as I would like. So as I start here, you can see I have an open club face as I take the club away. So now we have lines that are opposite, right? We have this line that comes into my body, that's representing my face angle line, and there's my spine angle. That's far from what I stated earlier, that we want these lines to match with one another, right? That this would show we're actually doing the complete opposite of what we need to be doing. Those two lines are perpendicular when we need them to be completely parallel. Okay, so that would be error number one. There's back to normal. And error number two would be the opposite of that, which is keeping it extremely closed. So you can see the lines are opposite, or not opposite to each other, but they don't match once again, putting us into an incorrect position. So here, this is something that you can do when you're on the driving range to help yourself identify where your errors are. And we can get an alignment rod stabbed into the ground like that, set up kind of similar to as similar as possible to your spine angle. And you're gonna just get yourself in a position where you're able to stop. And now once you're stopped there, you can take a moment and you can analyze, okay, there's what I think my spine angle is looking like. Does my club face match that position? Right? So everything should line up. You should have three angles there that are all the same. So now we're gonna move into our takeaway a little bit more and how we can start to improve that. I've kind of showed you the errors and where we would like to be and where we don't want to be, but I haven't yet explained how we're going to get there. So here I'm going to start to provide you with examples and drills as to how we can properly take that golf club away and get you into the position that you'd like to be in. Okay. So again, alignment rod, I have that in my hand. That's always going to be very useful. I'm kind of showing here the different takeaways with one hand, but we're going to use that alignment rod and we're going to lay it down on the ground. It's going to be a straight line coming straight back from your golf ball, in line with your target, and then continuous back behind you as well. Our goal when doing this is to take our golf club back on that line, not constantly reaching down that line, but as naturally as possible along the line. So you see I have three lines. Oh, let's back this up a little bit there. I drew three lines in. There's a green line and two red lines. Green is good, red is not so good. We want to take that club back as much on that green line as possible until our body naturally pulls us away from it. We don't want to feel our hands pulling too quickly to the inside, and nor do we want to feel everything pushing away from our bodies. Okay, so that was in a good position there. I kind of just slowly dragged along that line until it pulled away from my body naturally. That would be that there. What you see me doing is that really extreme pull to the inside. And what that naturally causes is the club face to be open. Right? As we were talking earlier about how we can find those positions. Well, just from the start, if I pull it too much to the inside, I'm going to open that club face a lot. Same if I go to the outside. What that's going to do is going to create me to have a very closed club face. And that's why starting on that line is going to be helping us put us in that right position. It naturally lets our hands do what they need to do to get into the proper angles and positions with our club face and our body. Just like that one there. And you can pull it back and you can take a swing. These are drills that you can be doing at home without a hitting net. You can be doing them at the golf course when we're finally open. They're things that you can always be doing, always be checking up on to make sure that they're working. So here's one of my favorite drills. And for anybody who's ever worked with me on the driving range, you've likely seen this drill and done it before. We're gonna get 3 golf balls. We're gonna put them in a line. There's gonna be ball 1 with ball 2 right behind it. And then ball 3 is gonna be well behind that. So I'm going to show you here from a side angle how you would set it up. There's ball 1, ball 2, and then ball 3 would sit well behind it. Okay. So once we have that down on the ground, we're going to start working on our takeaway, and we're going to have some actual instant feedback now as to how our takeaway is. We'll know right away whether we're pulling it too far to the inside or pushing it too much to the outside. Our goal is going to be to put the club in between the first two balls and simply roll that ball into the other one. So that one there, as you can see, I push the ball to the outside here. That is maybe a little bit of an outside takeaway, not exactly what I would want. So I'm going to try that again. Pushed it back a little bit again to the outside, but it's not too far off. It's not extreme on one side or the other. Okay, let's try this again. Oh, that time I pulled it, I overcorrected. I tried going a little bit more to the inside. Okay, so this drill, has always been one of my favorite drills. It's a great drill to constantly check up on with yourself and just get to know what you're doing. Something to be mindful of and watch for while you're doing this drill is that we're not pushing our body way across. So here's an example. We don't want to be doing that. We want to have a stable trunk. Our spine is going to be solid in the middle as we rotate around that. So there's the goal. And like I said, the club is naturally going to pull away from the line. We're not diving our body across. Okay. So, and this drill, you can do it on the range. Just grab any 3 balls. You can use a tee as your target, whatever you like. Once you've done this drill a couple times without actually performing the swing, then you can start moving into the swinging motion. Don't do the full swing version first. Get used to the motion as it can be different. As I'm practicing, I like to do a number of different things. I'll run this motion. I'll pause part way, and then I'll continue the swing and finish it. I'll do a full swing motion. I'll step off, and then I'll restart. I'll do one with the ball. I'll do one with a pause, and then I'll do a full swing. Just constant variation in my practice routine to keep me actively engaged with what I'm doing. Make sure I'm tracking everything how I want. Okay. This is my practice session essentially. I just thought I'd give everyone a little bit of a sneak peek as to what I'm practicing and what I'm encouraged on as well, because this is a simple fix that can definitely help everyone improve their game just a little bit more with their face angle. Now, right at the end here, I'm just going to give everyone another front view of what it'll look like. I think let me let this kind of play through for a moment, just to so everyone can see again what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to accomplish. And now I believe we're going to turn it around here. Great. So when we're setting up, a good key component that we can look at that can help us monitor everything as well is the triangle that's developed in our arms, right? So when we set up, as everyone can see there, there's a big triangle that's created between my left arm, my right arm, and my chest. As we swing the club backwards and forwards, this triangle kind of bends and twists, but we can monitor that triangle and what it does throughout our swing to be able to identify where our flaws might be. So if we're diving the club to the inside, just like that, the triangle like instantly disappears. Or if we're going to the outside, the triangle looks very tacky as we kind of come up. But if we go back to our natural swinging motion where we just let it fall off that line again, we hold that triangle in a strong, stable position. Right? So these are all just different angles. And I hope everyone can go back on these videos when they're posted and take away a little bit more from this. I know there's a lot of information that I'm trying to spit out at once here, but I do encourage everyone to go back, take your time, practice with some of these components, and really break this down into numerous different features. So now I'm going to show you from a tour level what some of this looks like. Here's Canada's lefty. So as we see his takeaway, and he comes back on that line, and right at that parallel position, just like we mentioned earlier, spine angle matches his club face, right? That's kind of what we're looking for there. Again, just coming back naturally on that line. And from the LPGA Tour, Danielle Kang, same thing. So she pulls back slowly on that line. But when she arrives to that parallel position, that club face matches her spine angle. Everything matches there. This always indicates to us that we're already on the right path to creating the proper club face angle at impact. And a square club face angle at impact does oftentimes result in much straighter shots. So I hope everyone was able to take away a few pieces from my little spiel here today, and that you can take all these practice steps to the range or your backyards or your family rooms. And I hope that works out. Oh, you couldn't see the pros. Okay, let me share that again for you. Here's Danielle Kang. So there's our parallel position, as we stated, with the spine angle, right? And the way she comes back on that line. So if there was that imaginary line coming back this way, her club pulls back straight on it until her body forces it naturally off the line right there. And now it starts to wrap around her body a little bit more. And let's go to the Canadian. Same thing right there. There's that spot where that spine angle matches that face angle. If anybody wants any more clarity on that, feel free to reach out to me. When the course opens, we can spend time looking at it with everybody. This is really fun stuff for me, and I hope you're able to enjoy it as well.
That's awesome, Daniel. Thank you so much. Yeah, and definitely once we get rocking and rolling outdoors again, if you do want to spend some time with Daniel working on this, you can book a lesson with Daniel, and you can work together with him on making this, potentially integrating some of these changes into your game. I like what you did there with, I hope you've found a few takeaways from this takeaway session. That was a really good little play on words there, Daniel. I love it. And no one wants a tacky triangle. So we'll be working on keeping that triangle position there as well. So I love that. This is such a great session. And Daniel, thank you for outlining the club face awareness bits. It's such an important piece to the puzzle, to the puzzle that is the game of golf. So next, let's throw it over to Aidan Bischoff. He's going to dazzle us with a little information about the Toronto Terror. I don't even want to say it because I want to leave it to you, Aidan. Aidan, whenever you're ready, the floor is all yours.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Nice to see you all again. I'm excited to talk about this topic today because it's something that's always interested me, and it's one of the reasons why I also really enjoy the game of golf more than for just the game, but a lot more about golf course architecture and a little bit about all the different features and characteristics of a course. So Jamie's mentioned that I'm talking about the Toronto Terror today. That is the nickname for Stanley Thompson. Some of you may know that he was the one who designed our golf course alongside Aidan McKenzie, and is one of the most prominent golf figures in Canadian history, and if not all of golf history across North America especially. And I wanted to do this presentation today just to really make sure that I can get the point across that Stanley Thompson was a very impactful person in the way that golf courses have grown and become and the way that we know them today. So I put this little presentation together. I'll just put this up. There we go. Awesome. All right. So just a little bit of a context. I don't want to go too much into his whole life story and everything. I just want to make sure that I can get to the stuff I'm excited to talk about. But just a little bit of context for anyone who doesn't know about Stanley Thompson. So he was a Canadian golf course architect in the late 1800s and mid 1900s. And he belonged to a really big golfing family of about 5 brothers and 4 sisters, all of which were into the sport in various ways. He was brought up in Toronto and actually went to Malvern Collegiate out in the East End. So his home is Toronto, and it's good to see these prominent figures in our history and in our city. He served in World War I, and as I said, his nickname is the Toronto Terror, which is actually kind of a funny story because there's a lot of talk that this guy was a bit of a raging alcoholic, and there's speculation that he might not have actually been there mentally most of the time with all these stories, and that it was his brothers that kind of took on a lot of the work. So that's not really come out, and no one's come out and said that per se, but that's kind of the rumors that have gone around, and he was known for throwing some pretty big parties at his home, and that's where he kind of came up with that name, the Toronto Terror. People nicknamed him that. So just a little bit about his career. After coming back from the war, he started his architectural firm in the 1920s, And he kind of started off with his brothers, but then left it to himself in 1922, which he went on to really grow that enterprise to what what we've come to know today. Some of the courses he's built here, so I'm sure that you'll notice some of these names on here. So I've highlighted some of the big courses that are designed by him. So Jasper Park, Banff Springs, Capilano, St. George's, and then of course ourselves were on that list as well. And then some of the other courses around the GTA that I'm sure some of you have played at some point or may not have known that this was a Stanley Thompson design, but this is only a really, really brief list of some of his designs. And I just wanted to get across the point that, he has built many of the golf courses in the GTA and across Canada, and many of the courses that you might not have realized were actually his. So now moving on to the actual bulk of this, why I wanted to talk about the Stanley Thompson philosophy and how this is something that all of you've played ladies before, you notice certain parts of this course, and I just want you to fully understand his mentality behind designing this golf course and alongside all the other golf courses that he built. So this is a quote from him. It's interesting. He says that the most successful course is one that will test the skill of the most advanced golfer, but without discouraging the duffer, while adding to the enjoyment of both. He really recognized that the average golfer, about 85% of golfers will shoot above 90 on a given round. So he didn't want to build these courses to break people down. He didn't want to build these courses to only work for the pros and the professionals that train their whole life to go out and shoot low scores. He wanted to make this an inclusive place for everyone of every different ability. And he always said that nature has to be the architect's model. You can see that a lot of these courses are built on some really, really beautiful properties like ourselves, right alongside the Don River. And this would have been, I guess, a bit of a farmer's patch back in the day, but has grown into a really, really nice property. And a lot of his courses are built around the nature, and that was his main focus before putting shovel to dirt. So some of the course layout features that he would have looked at, these are things that I wanted to highlight so that when you look at ladies now, you can see, okay, this is something that Stanley had in mind. And this is something that he worked alongside Aidan to make sure that his philosophy was carried along to our course as well. So some of the features of a typical Stanley Thompson course would be the bunkers and the greens can't have any sort of sharp or harsh edges, and they were very easy and rolling. He wanted to make sure that water was utilized because it makes for a good mental and actual hazard as well. And specifically placed foliage around the golf course kind of helped to make the golf course more aesthetically pleasing and make you really feel like you're in nature and you're in the environment. And that he wanted to make sure that these courses had this feeling of this course is meant to be here. And it's almost as if this golf course has always been here and that it wasn't man-made and it's in its natural state. So just looking at some of those things, now that we know these course features, if you look at here, I have the seventh hole, or sorry, no, I have the third hole right here. You can see kind of the rounded edges around the green here. And then same with the rounded bunkering edges around the back, protecting the green. None of these bunkers are pothole bunkers. None of them are too challenging. They were always easy to get out, or not, I shouldn't say easy, but manageable to get out in one shot. He didn't want to penalize you that hard if you were to get into a bunker and didn't want to trap you in there. So those rounded edges around the green, that's kind of a typical part of his design. We know on 16, there's a river crossing here, which, as he also said before, that poses a good mental hazard, but also an actual hazard too. So I'm sure we've all found that river or the water that runs alongside laterally to that hole at some point in time. And we know that it can be daunting to us. And he wanted to make sure that he's able to incorporate nature into something that can also serve as a bit of a penalty if you don't stay the course. Skill and difficulty for Stanley. This is where you can really see the difference in that older architecture compared to some of the courses we see today. He really believed that a course should never be more than 6,500 yards in length, which from today's standards, is a relatively short golf course. If you see what some of the pros are playing now, upwards of 7,500 yards, those are monster golf courses. But that was never his intention. He always wanted to make sure that it wasn't hard for you to get to the green, but it was hard for you to get to the hole. So around the greens and the bunkering, that's where his defense came into place. Every shot should be planned, and he really wanted to make sure that you could work through your entire bag of clubs. You're going to use every single club at least some point in your round, if not most of them, and wanted to show that the variety that the golf course can have. So I just put down the scorecard here for us, so we know that from the blue tees, if you're playing all the way from the backs, our course is 6,002 yards, and that's plus 6,000 yard cap is also going to be maintained once the course construction is done. So if anyone thinks that the course can be shortened, it won't be. It's still going to be over 6,000 yards, and that's sort of alongside his philosophy with having a course over 6,000 but under 65. So as I said, with tees and greens, he never wanted to have any blind holes. He wanted to make sure that you knew what you were up against as soon as you step foot on that tee. So that means that the bunkers and greens should always be visible, and that greens should face the shot and never recede away from the player, that would make the green invisible, and he didn't want that. And as I said, it wasn't about getting to the green. He didn't want it to be too hard or too long of a distance to get to the green, but it's that point of when you're getting to the hole, when you're around the green. That's why there's a lot of bunker coverage around the greens, and the greens are what really stood out to him, and it's kind of what revolutionized the game that we've come to know today. Because if you put yourself back in what it was like in the 1920s when Ladies was built in 1924, if you can imagine a pasture kind of cow patch of a field that, it's hard to think that that's what it would have been, but at the time when he was first building the course, that's what the land that he was working on would have been. And the standard at that time was not necessarily the work that would have to go into the greens. It was just, here's your green, here's your little circle, there's the hole, now get to it. What separated him from a lot of the other course architects, and it's what a lot of course architects in today's age have built on, is the fact that he would take that extra time to really sculpt the greens into those crazy angulations that we know, and make sure that greens were slanted downwards towards the player and wouldn't recede off the back. There would be some angulations left and right and variation between hole. And that's what really separated him. So if some of you have been fed up with, I guess, the way that the seventh hole has kind of always been that forward slanted green, that was kind of his intention at that time, making sure that the green wouldn't go off to the back. So when you're on the tee, you know that green is facing towards you, and you know that everything kind of runs off down this way, and it won't run off the back. And that's sort of alongside what he wanted to keep going with all of the holes on a course that he designed. So you can see the same thing for 12 as well. We know that this green sort of slants a little bit down this way, and there's also a bit of a shelf right here, a bit of a ridge. So all of his greens, if there's a bit of a plateau to them, they would be sloping downwards towards the golfer, so that you knew what that green would look like, and there wasn't going to be any guessing about if your ball goes off the back, where is it going to end up, and where am I going to lose this? What am I dealing with out the back? You knew what you were up against before heading into the green. So some of the design principles, and actually I found this interesting because I was doing some research on the Stanley Thompson Society, which you can search up yourself. It's just online, just type in Stanley Thompson Society, and there's a lot of really good information in there. And these were some of the design principles that I picked out. So one of the things that actually stood out to me, and it's not necessarily something that I guess a golf course architect would have to take into place, but he wanted to make sure that the clubhouse site overlooked the terrain so that you could really experience the environment that you were in and really come to appreciate the land that you were playing on. So as we know, that the clubhouse here at Ladies is situated up on the hill up by the 18th green, and has a nice view over the river, over a bit of 17, and it makes you feel like you are kind of becoming one with the course, and you can appreciate the land and the work that has gone into making this course possible. One of the also interesting things with him, he built his courses around the par threes. he'd never really factored in the 4s and 5s into, this is a par 4 that I want to build, or this is a par 5 I want to build. He would walk the course and say, this is where a par 3 is going. This is where another par 3 is going. This par 3 is over here. Now, how can I naturally work the 4s and 5s into the course? Angled greens to the fairway, allowing for pitch and run shots. That was also big into him, so that you could roll up the ball onto the green. There was greenside bunker protection. That was also one of his bigger sides to what he would use as his defense for the course. Greens and bunkers, landing areas would always be seen from the tee. And a lot of his fairway bunkers were targets. And you could aim at this bunker if you wanted to get to this position. This is how you would approach the green. And also, too, I find this interesting that you always remember that 85% of the golfers will always shoot over 90. And that was the people that he was designing for. And he wasn't designing for the pros. He wasn't designing for the people that spend their entire life working on this, but for the average golfer to really grow and appreciate the sport. So just picking out a couple of the other holes that we have, just showing what he would have done during this time. So here we have 17 and 3, which we both know are challenging holes because they're over into a valley, so it's hard to judge with wind and distance. They're also over a river, which is part of his philosophy, including water as a mental hazard. And they are kind of the center of the entire golf course. So if you can imagine that these 2 holes would have been picked out at the beginning of his time making this course, and the rest of the course would have been structured around these 2 holes, because we know that 7 and 13 and 16 are really, really beautiful par 3s over the water, down elevated tees with trees all around. Those 3 holes would have been kind of the holes that he would have built the entire course around. When I was talking about fairway target bunkers, we can see on 8, this bunker kind of comes into play for that here. This is sort of a line so that you know, okay, I'm going to aim my shot at this bunker, and this will set me up nicely if I'm just before that to come onto the green nicely. And then one of the things that I always talk to people about is 15. This is, I believe, one of the kind of the most iconic Stanley Thompson designed holes that I've seen, just because of the way that this green is designed. So the first thing, there's a rounded green. There's a lot of space here. It has a bit of room here for you to run a shot up. So it's never going to deter you from hitting a bump and run up onto the green. So you do have that runway to get that ball up onto there. But these 2 bunkers here at the front sort of protect the green. And if you can think about yourself standing in the middle of the 15th fairway right now, looking at this green, you know that those bunkers look like they're closer to the green than they actually are. And that was part of the visual game that he would like to play with, making a bunker look like it's a greenside bunker, but actually having a little bit more distance. So this is a bit of a greenside bunker, but the way that this bunker is angled, there's a lot more space in between here and the bunker than you might think. And then also having these 2 bunkers at the back as added protection is a really iconic Stanley Thompson design, covering the green with bunkers that are challenging, but also manageable to get out of if you find yourself in them. So I hope that, if any of you haven't learned about Stanley Thompson before, if you knew a little bit about Stanley and the Toronto Terra, that this kind of helped you brush up on your knowledge of him. But one of the biggest takeaways from this is I just wanted to show those connections that Stanley has to our golf course and the impact that he's had on the greater community, because he's really helped shape the way that a lot of course architects have done their work now, and it's sort of pushed forward the way that the golf course architecture is moving forward in the future. So I hope this is something that you guys found interesting.
Thanks so much, Aidan. That was awesome. I think I can speak on behalf of everyone and say how impressive and fascinating that was. Really, really cool presentation. So thank you so much. And I know you haven't landed on what your career is in the future, but I don't know, golf course architect sounds like maybe something that you're quite passionate about. So that was fantastic. And it's interesting that you highlighted the yardages, because last night I was watching the Golf Channel, and they were prepping for this weekend's PGA Championship, and they were talking about the driving distances and the course and how they've changed, championship golf courses. And for example, Kiowa Ocean Course, which is what they're playing this week, is 7,800 yards total distance. And in 1980, 41 years ago, it was played at Oakmont, and the total distance was 6,800. So 1,000 yards difference. However, the driving distance, the average driving distance on tour in 1980 was 250, 253. And today it's like 290, I think, is the average driving distance. So, I mean, it's so interesting because, of course, Stanley was designing the courses, most of these courses at a time where there was, the historical context of how far the balls went and the distance of the players is such an interesting point. So I was so glad to see all of those outlined, and also the Thompson isms, for those of us who have played other courses, I've heard people say, classic Thompson course, or those are those Thompsonisms, the bunkers, the greens. So thank you so much, Aidan, for highlighting all of those amazing elements, and also for, including those beautiful, aerial photos of ladies. That was fantastic. We almost feel like we're there, standing over top of those greens and having a look. So thanks again. Next up, we're going to throw it over to Adrienne. She's got some drills, so feel free to get up out of your chairs and move around. I'll do it too. So I'll lead by example. I'll get out of my chair and go through with Adrienne as she shows us the heels up drill.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie, for the intro, and thank you everyone for joining. As Daniel mentioned, it's a beautiful day and it would be nice to be outside playing, but hopefully this is a close second, as we can imagine. So the drill today, as Jamie mentioned, we're going to be doing heels up. And what heels up basically does is to help you maintain your posture throughout the golf swing. So we don't stand up too soon on the way back in our golf swing, and we don't stand up, which is a common error that most of us make, myself included. I've done it. I've caught myself doing it many times. So yes, I would encourage you to stand up. Do the drill with or without a golf club. It'd be better with one, but I'm just gonna move my chair. So I've got with me a 9-iron. You can choose whatever club you are comfortable with. I've chosen a 9. It's the shortest. I feel the most comfortable with it. So what you're going to do is take your normal setup, okay? Like you're hitting your 9-iron, feet shoulder width apart, okay? Next, what you're going to do is slowly lift your heels off of the ground. You don't have to be on your tippy toes, but enough to where your heels are up off the ground. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is rotate back nice and slow. Feel nice and balanced. Do it as slow as you like, or you can moderate it or modify it, sorry, just like Jamie's doing and putting it across her chest. Okay, so rotate back to the back. And then on the way down, what you're going to want to do is actually take it nice and slow and bring your heels back down and feel like you're actually pressing your heels into the ground. So now actually diving into it and explaining the maintaining of the posture and everything like that. So let's say we have a problem maintaining our posture through our takeaway. A lot of us sometimes will stand up like this. So now the triangle, as Dan had mentioned, is over here. Okay, so you want to be able to rotate back this way. As you come down, push the heels down. Okay, let's say we had a problem with maintaining our posture at impact position. So if I take my swing, hopefully I don't smack this bed in front of me, but taking it back, if I were to lose my posture coming through, I would stand up on my toes and actually come out of my posture and stand up, and my spine is now bent backwards. Okay, so if we do this properly, this is what it should look like. So heels up, nice and slow, rotate back this way, nice and slow on the way through, pressing those heels down and extending down your target line. Okay, and this is something that you can do. It's very versatile. You can use it on the driving range, at home, anywhere that you really like. It's something great to practice. Now, obviously, it would be nice to hit the ball 400 yards. Like I'm sure a lot of us have seen those long drive athletes, and you see them coming out of their posture all the time. They're jumping up out of their toes and then doing it again on the way through. That's a different breed of athlete. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they're that built and everything. Like if you look at Troy Mullins, who was here 2 years ago, if you watch her hit a ball and then you watch myself or Dan hit a ball, it's like a baby hitting it next to her. It's wild. But the idea of this drill is to maintain your posture and be able to stay down throughout the golf shot, to really maintain that power and to get the ball up in the air nice and easy. I'm not too sure where Jamie went, but if you do have any questions about anything, please do feel free. This is a drill that I really like to do. I'm guilty of it. I do come out of my posture because I'm trying to rip the cover off the golf ball and then it ends up going every which way that I want. But hopefully this is super helpful. So you can modify it as Jamie was doing. So you can put the club across your chest with your heels up and still do that same thing if you're not comfortable with taking that full swing. That's pretty much heels up. So hopefully that's helpful and you can use it on the driving range and at home. That way you're ready to go and you can gain some extra power.
Awesome. Adrienne, thank you so much. That's amazing. I'm sorry I had to pop out. As you can see here, I'm in my office here at the club, and that was actually Dave Moot who was just popping in. He's probably actually, I think, 2 degrees of separation away from Stanley himself. So that's the coolest segue back to Aidan's presentation a couple of moments ago, because his father, of course, worked with Stanley himself. Until Stanley's death in the 50s. So apologies, but I saw lots of thumbs up as I came back in. So I can only imagine, Adrienne, that you knocked everyone's socks off with the heels up drill. I know I was getting into it before I got pulled away. So thank you so much for that. And hopefully that gives everyone a little something to work on, not only now at home, but also when you get back out onto the range, which is just around the corner. Okay, last but certainly not least, and he's also taking a step away from rules, although I know he's become a bit of a rules aficionado, and we've come to rely on his expertise each week. Mich Carriere is going to explain how to tackle some short game scenarios. And he's going to take us back to some of those holes that Aidan took us to earlier in this presentation. So Mich, it's all yours, my friend.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be with you. Okay, so I'm going to talk about short game pre-shot routine, tie it in a little bit with what Aidan and Daniel have been talking the last 2 weeks, but specifically for the short game. So what are we trying to what are we looking for before our shot? Not just popping it onto the green, without any purpose. So there are 3 things that I try to do when I have a shot. Okay, so one of the theory is that you want to get the ball rolling on the green as quickly as possible and roll to the hole, as opposed to flying it to the hole and having it stop there. Why is that? Why is that what we're trying to do? Well, 2 things. Probably, well, it will help. It will require a shorter stroke with less loft. In theory, should be easier to pull off. Okay, and so that's what we're trying to do. So from there, so that's our, and I'll have a diagram there to show you what the flight of each wedge is. Okay. The second thing I'm gonna try to do is I'll go off to the side, probably behind the ball. If I have time, I'll walk halfway and go on the low side and look at what I have left. If I've got 25 feet, 30 feet left, okay? And then I'm gonna pick a spot just onto the green where I want my ball to land, okay? And I'm looking at my shot, I'm going over here, okay? I'm trying to try to land my ball over here in a 3-foot circle, 5-foot circle, depending how long my shot's gonna be, but I'm gonna picture a circle where I want my ball to land. And from there, I'm gonna go, okay, so what club and what flight is gonna allow me to land the ball there and still get to the hole, okay? So I'm going to share the screen here. Hopefully this works. Okay, and all right, and let me just slideshow. All right, hopefully this works. Okay, why is this? All right, there we go. Okay, got it. Okay, so here we have the wedges for our flight, wedge flight. Okay, here we have the pitching wedge. If you can see the cursor, the pitching wedge is going to go about 25%, 30% in the air, and is going to roll the rest of the way about 70 to 75%. Okay. Sand wedge is going to go about halfway and then roll the rest of the half. My ratio is just a little bit off here, but it's about halfway, plus or minus 5% each way. So 45%, 55%, about there. The lob wedge, 58 to 64 degrees, is going to go 75% plus or minus 5 and roll the next 5%. Okay. So when I'm looking at my shot and I go, okay, so I can fly it maybe a quarter of the way and it'll roll the rest of the way. So I can take a pitching wedge or a gap wedge. And then I'm going to figure out how hard I have to hit it with that pitching wedge or gap wedge to land in my spot. And then the rest should take care of myself. Okay. So I'm going to show you a few scenarios where we will have to decide what club we want to hit. Okay. So this is scenario number 1. So we have 2 ball positions here, A and B. We have lots of room. The pin's at the back, and so we have lots of room. Okay. So from A, this could be my landing spot here, which is not quite short of halfway, and then it could roll the rest of the way. Okay. So I could go, probably a gap wedge. Okay. Land it in this area, and it could go the rest of the way. Okay. So B here, obviously this doesn't exist. I don't want to go anywhere near here. But if I fly it just a little bit short of halfway here and roll the rest of the way, that's no problem. Okay. So it's really two very similar shots. One has rarely straightforward, the other one has a bunker. But really, if I land on my spot, this is where I'm looking at. What club am I going to be able to land there? And the rest should take care of itself. Okay. So that's scenario number 1. Okay. Scenario number 2 is a little trickier. Okay. Now, ball position A, ball position B. Here, we don't want to go here. Okay. And so basically this has to be our landing spot. Okay. With scenario A, it's pretty straightforward. Land is just on the green and we can make it. Okay. If we want to get a little adventurous, okay, this landing it just onto the green or maybe between the green and the bunker, that requires a lot of skill, a lot of finesse, and we have to pull it on, have to be absolutely perfect. Okay. But ideally, we might have to fly our ball all the way to near the flag. Maybe it can stop if we can get spin on it. If it can stop, well, so much the better. But it might just happen to roll a little bit further back where my check mark is. That's in this condition, in this situation, okay, we have to accept our predicament. We were short-sighted, we had a bunker. This is actually a good shot, okay? I definitely don't want to be anywhere near here. And this is the best we can do, okay? So I would come walk here where this ball position, and I said, okay, well, I don't have a choice. I have to land it here, and let's hope it stops. But if it rolls out just a little bit, I'm still putting for par or whatever I am. It's par 3, and it's my second shot, and I still got to putt for par. And that's, I just got to accept my medicine and just accept the predicament I was in. Okay. So sometimes if we are, I'll take an example of hole number 7. Sometimes a chip is our best option, okay? When we're on the tee, and if we're playing number 7 with a front pin position, okay? Here we have position A and we have position B, okay? You know what? I'd have a way better chance of making par from position A than from position B. It's going to be really hard to 2-putt from position B. And if my short game is up to par, then yeah, I'll take position A in this situation anytime. So it's just a straightforward chip up. Maybe we can make it. This is where the announcers will say the player is looking, he's looking to make this one. It's just straightforward up the hill. Okay, so that's one of those examples. Okay, so just to review just a bit, pick your landing spot just under the green. Pick a club that will allow you, and a shot that will allow you to land it there and roll out to the green, and then just pick a shot, a length of stroke that will be strong enough to get you there. Okay, look at it from the side. It's always better to move a little bit to the side to get a better perspective. Okay, than standing right behind the ball. You can see your landing spot a little better, and then you go on from there. Okay, so that is our short game pre-shot routine.
I love that. Thanks so much, Mitch. That was awesome. I know on that third slide, maybe like some of you, I was thinking, okay, position B, I'm probably hitting it into position A. It's going to be tough. I'm probably looking at having A coming back up anyway. It's going to be tough to control that, particularly, in the middle of July or August when things are really rolling smoothly out there.
The good news is we can leave the flag in now.
Absolutely.
Hopefully hit the flag.
Yeah, you bet. Well, it's a great example though, when you hit a shot and you come up short, especially on hole 7, sometimes that's not always the worst thing. And then the other piece that I really took away from that, Mitch, and I appreciate you highlighting, is that sometimes we don't always have to go for the pin. As we were preparing for this, we said, how many times do we get into a situation, let's say it's a fun, just easy recreational round, and the pin is tucked behind a bunker and we have to take our really high lofted wedge. That is the time. Take your, really high lofted wedge and practice those, those really heroic sort of risk reward shots. But often it's the opposite. We get into the times where we're in competition and we're thinking, okay, the stakes are high. I have to go for this. And we've never practiced it. And in that case, we probably just need to be aiming for the open part of the green and, and just like mitigating the risk at that point and just making sure our next shot has our putter in our hand as opposed to having a sand wedge from the bunker or whatever we're trying to hit over top of. So that was such a great presentation, Mitch. Really appreciate the time that you put into that. Daniel, thank you so much for the takeaways. Those were some really great drills, great club face awareness pieces. Aidan, thank you for the bits on Stanley Thompson and the incredible ways. And actually, Aidan has something that he wants to update us on.
Yeah, I just actually have one kind of exciting Stanley Thompson piece of news to add. I just got a sports notification that for 2023 and 2026, Oakdale Golf and Country Club has been confirmed as the location for the Canadian Open. So that's another Stanley Thompson course that will be featured at the Canadian Open along with St. George's next year, hopefully, after 2 years of being delayed there. So just a little exciting update for you guys.
I love it. Thanks, Aidan. I always get a little bit nervous when, in these days we're living in, when there's up to the minute updates while we're in this Golf Talk Live and, I have late breaking news. I think, oh gosh, please, hopefully we'll have more notice than that if it's the other late breaking news we're all hoping for. But thank you for sharing that, Aidan. That's awesome. And, Stanley just continues his march of glory, with all of these tracks and these courses, including our own. So very, very cool information. Adrienne, of course, thank you so much for your, I said wheels up, but I meant heels up. Heels up drill, that was incredible. Just a quick update for everyone. We are offering curbside pickup as well, of course, as our virtual shopping experiences. So if if you want to make sure you get some headwear, some new ladies logoed caps so that you're ready for your first round at the club with a nice fresh hat and polo or something like that. We have all of those pieces now in the golf shop. We're just starting to get some golf bags as well. So better late than never is the phrase that we're going to use for the golf bags this year because they've been stuck in shipping containers and who only knows where for the last few months. So we're eagerly getting them unboxed and out on the floor. But if there's anything we can help you with, the team is ready and willing to help you and get you all set for the upcoming and fast approaching year. So Unless there are any questions, unless I see any questions pop up into the chat in the next few minutes, I will bid you all farewell for another week. Hopefully by next Wednesday, who knows, we will see you in person, but if not, you know where to find us here next Wednesday, 1 p.m. Golf Talk Live. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all your feedback, and we'll look forward to seeing you all very soon.